Welcome to Neo Inspire, the YouTube channel that's all about celebrating your individuality, strength, and purpose. We're here to take you on a journey of inspiration and self-discovery. We believe that every person has a unique story to tell, a unique purpose to fulfill, and through our videos we aim to help you uncover that. If you're ready to embark on this empowering educational adventure with us, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We promise to bring you content that not only entertains but truly inspires. So, are you ready to begin? Let's dive right into our first topic, rooted joy. Have you ever wondered where true joy originates from? It's a question that's crossed many minds, and the answer might be simpler than you think. Our joy, you see, is deeply rooted in the knowledge of our God. It's not just about believing, but understanding and knowing Him that brings about profound joy. Let me share a personal anecdote to illustrate this. I remember a time when I was feeling particularly low, like my life was a never-ending cycle of disappointments. But as I delved deeper into my faith, spending time reading scriptures and in prayer, I started to understand God more. I saw His love, His promises, His faithfulness, and the more I knew Him, the more joy I experienced. It was unlike any happiness I'd felt before. True joy, therefore, is not fleeting or dependent on circumstances, but is deeply rooted in the knowledge of our God. Imagine you're trying to share something important, but you're constantly interrupted. What would you do? This was the predicament faced by Paul, a figure known for his boldness in the face of adversity. Picture yourself in Paul's shoes, attempting to share a message of love and compassion, only to be met with resistance at every turn. But did Paul falter? No. Instead, he chose to stand strong, to raise his voice higher, and to preach with even greater conviction. He understood that his message was far too significant to be silenced by hindrance. Let's consider a scenario. You're at a bustling marketplace, trying to tell a story that could change lives. The noise is deafening, the crowd uninterested. But you don't let that stop you. You speak louder, you speak clearer, and most importantly, you speak with a heart full of belief. That, my friends, is boldness in the face of hindrance. In the face of hindrance, boldness is our most potent weapon. Do you ever feel like you're your own worst enemy? This question might strike a chord in many of us. We're talking about being a prisoner of self. It's like being trapped in a cell made of doubts, fears, insecurities, and self-criticism. Let me share a personal story to illustrate this. Once I had a dream to pursue a project that was close to my heart, but I was held back by my own fears and insecurities. I doubted my abilities, my worthiness, and my readiness. But over time, I realized that this self-imprisonment was hindering my spiritual growth. It was keeping me from fully trusting in God's plan for me. It was only when I decided to break free from this self-made prison, to shatter those walls of doubt and fear, that I could truly start growing spiritually. Breaking free from the prison of self allows us to walk more closely with God. Pain is a universal experience, but have you ever considered that God walks with us in our pain? Imagine for a moment that you're walking through a thick, impenetrable forest. The underbrush is dense, the trees tower above you, and the path is obscured. You feel lost and alone, but then, in the midst of the darkness, you see a light. It's faint at first, but as you move closer, it grows brighter and warmer. This light represents the presence of God in our pain. In life, we find ourselves in situations that mirror this forest. We face trials and tribulations, hardships and heartbreaks. The pain can be so intense that it feels like we're lost in a dense, dark forest. But just like in our hypothetical scenario, God is there. He's the light guiding us through the darkness. He's the gentle whisper telling us to keep going, the comforting presence reassuring us that we're not alone. God is not distant or detached from our suffering. Instead, He is intimately involved in our lives, walking with us through our pain. He shares in our heartaches and our hopes, our fears and our faith. He doesn't promise us a journey free of pain, but He does promise His presence, His guidance, and His love in the midst of it. We often ask, why does God allow pain? The answer isn't always clear, and it's rarely simple. But what we do know is this: God uses our pain to shape us, to strengthen us, and to draw us closer to Him. Our pain, as hard as it may be, has purpose. It's not just about the suffering we endure, but about how we grow, how we change, and how we become more like Him through it all. So when you find yourself in the throes of pain, remember this: God is with you. He's walking beside you, guiding you, comforting you. He feels your pain, shares in your struggle, and rejoices in your resilience. He is the light in your darkness, the hope in your heartache, and the strength in your suffering. Even in the midst of our deepest pain, we are never alone. Have you ever felt a sudden surge of strength when you thought you had none left? Imagine being in the midst of a strenuous climb, your muscles screaming, your breath coming in ragged gasps. You're certain you can't go on, that your legs will buckle under the strain. Then, out of nowhere, an inexplicable energy courses through you. You straighten, take a deep breath, and forge ahead with renewed vigor. This unexpected empowerment, my friends, is akin to recognizing the power of God on the way. Let me share a personal experience. I was in a dire situation, my problems towering over me like insurmountable mountains. I was lost, feeling utterly hopeless. But in my darkest hour, I felt a comforting presence, a warmth that seemed to emanate from within me. It was as if a gentle hand was guiding me, leading me to solutions I hadn't seen before. I found strength I didn't know I possessed, courage to face my issues head-on. This is the power of God on the way. It's not about a sudden dramatic intervention, but a subtle force that guides us, strengthens us, and enlightens us. It's a power that's always there, waiting to be tapped into. It's a gentle nudge when we're veering off course, a comforting whisper in our moments of doubt, a beacon of hope in our darkest hours. As we journey, let's remember to recognize and draw upon the power of God. What does it mean to walk worthy in your spiritual journey? Picture yourself at a crossroads in life. On one side, the path is familiar, comfortable, but leads to stagnation. The other, uncharted and challenging, holds a promise of growth and transformation. This is where the concept of walking worthy comes into play. It's about choosing the path less traveled, the path God has laid out for you. Walking worthy is not about perfection, but about surrender. It's about surrendering to the knowledge that God holds about you and your life. You might be thinking, but how do I surrender? What does that look like? Well, it's like handing over the steering wheel of your life to God. It's acknowledging that even though you may not understand everything, God does. Let's consider a hypothetical scenario. You're offered a job that pays well but goes against your principles. The world might tell you to seize the opportunity, but walking worthy means choosing to surrender your decision to God, trusting His knowledge of what's best for you. Surrender is not a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it's the ultimate act of courage and trust. It's admitting that we don't have all the answers, and that's okay, because God does. And when we surrender to His wisdom, we start to walk worthy. Walking worthy is a conscious choice to surrender to God's knowledge of you. Have you ever felt like your past mistakes are holding you back? We've all been there, haven't we? Trauma has a sneaky way of creating shame, a heavy cloak that hinders our authenticity. It's like walking through life with a mask, afraid that if people see the real you, they might not like what they see. But let me tell you a story. There was a time in my life when I was so wrapped up in shame that I could hardly recognize myself. It was like I was living in a perpetual state of fear, constantly worried about being judged or rejected. But you know what I realized? That shame was not mine to bear. It was a weight placed upon my shoulders by others, by circumstances, by past mistakes. And so, I chose to shed that shame, to embrace my authentic self, flaws and all. Because to walk worthy, we must shed the shame of our past and embrace our authentic selves. How close do you feel to God in your daily life? This question might seem daunting, but the answer lies in our faith. Walking by faith is a journey that leads us closer to God, fostering an intimate relationship with Him. Imagine you're in a dark room, not knowing where to step next. In life, we often find ourselves in similar situations, unsure of the path ahead. But as we step forward in faith, it's like switching on a light, gradually illuminating the room. It doesn't mean we can see the entire layout immediately, but each step of faith reveals a little more of the path. This is how walking by faith brings us closer to God. It's not about having all the answers or seeing the whole picture. It's about trusting God enough to take the next step, even when we can't see what lies ahead. Each step brings us closer to Him, deepening our relationship. Walking by faith invites us into a deep and intimate relationship with God. What is the one truth you hold dear in your spiritual journey? In my experience, the most impactful moments in my spiritual journey came when I discovered the truth for myself. It's like finding a hidden treasure in a field. Once you find it, you're willing to sell everything you have to buy that field. There's a profound significance in uncovering your own truth. It's not about what you've been told or taught, but what you've experienced and understood for yourself. This personal truth becomes a strong foundation, a rock on which you can build your faith. Let me share a story with you. I remember a time when I was grappling with doubts and uncertainties. I had heard many teachings, but they seemed distant, unrelatable. Then one day, while reading a well-known passage in the scriptures, something clicked. The words came alive, and I felt an understanding wash over me. It was as if I was hearing them for the first time. This was my truth, a truth I had discovered for myself. It gave me a newfound strength and conviction in my beliefs. You see, the journey of faith is a personal one. It's a path of self-discovery where we uncover truths that resonate deeply within our souls. These truths become our compass, guiding us through life's challenges and victories. In our spiritual journey, the truth we hold dear becomes our guiding light. Have you ever noticed how your emotions can play tricks on you? It's a fascinating concept, isn't it? Our emotions have a unique way of mimicking what we often perceive as the voice of God. Let's imagine a scenario. You're faced with a difficult decision, and your emotions are all over the place. Fear may whisper caution, excitement might shout opportunity, and confusion could muddle the whole dialogue. It's easy to mistake these emotional voices for divine guidance. However, it's vital to remember that our emotions, while powerful, are not infallible. They sway with our circumstances, our physical well-being, even the weather. They can be influenced by a myriad of factors that have nothing to do with divine wisdom. So, while it's crucial to acknowledge and respect our emotions, it's equally essential to discern their place. While emotions are a part of our human experience, they should not be mistaken for the voice of God. What does it mean to live according to love, you ask? It's about immersing ourselves in the Word of God's love, letting it guide our actions, our thoughts, our very lives. Picture this: you're at a crossroads, faced with a choice. You could lash out in anger, or you could choose compassion, understanding, and love. Living in love is choosing the latter, even when it's tough. I remember a time when a friend wronged me. It was easy to feel betrayed and hold a grudge, but I chose to live in love. I chose to forgive, to understand their perspective, to heal the breach. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Living in love is not just about our actions towards others, but also towards ourselves. It's about treating ourselves with kindness, forgiving our mistakes and learning from them. It's about seeing ourselves through the lens of God's love. To walk worthy is to live a life rooted in love. How do clear communication and humility play a role in your spiritual journey? Let's delve into that. Imagine you're in a situation where misunderstandings arise. It's easy to let pride take the wheel, isn't it? But what if you choose a different path? Instead, you decide to communicate clearly, expressing your thoughts and emotions honestly. This is the first step towards resolution. You're not beating around the bush, but addressing the issue head-on. And guess what? This clear communication can diffuse tension and open up a pathway to understanding. Now let's add humility into the mix. You acknowledge that you might be wrong, that your perspective may not be the only valid one. This humility can disarm any defensive walls, fostering an environment of mutual respect and openness. In this hypothetical scenario, clear communication and humility are not signs of weakness but strength. They help transform conflicts into opportunities for growth and understanding. Clear communication and humility are essential tools in our journey towards spiritual growth. What are the limitations holding you back in your spiritual journey? This question is worth pondering, as we often find ourselves constrained by invisible barriers. Yet, there is a secret to living beyond these limitations: cultivating intimacy with the Lord. Consider the story of a friend named Emma. Emma was a person of faith, but she found herself constantly battling with self-doubt and fear, feeling as though she was shackled by these invisible chains. However, she decided to take a step back, to focus on building a deeper relationship with God. She invested time in prayer, meditation, and studying the scriptures. As Emma nurtured this intimacy with the Lord, she noticed a shift. Her fears began to subside, replaced by a sense of peace and assurance. She started to see herself through God's eyes, realizing that her perceived limitations were just that, perceptions. Emma's story serves as a reminder that, with God, we can live a life that goes beyond our perceived limitations. Have you ever felt a strong calling towards something? This is a question many grapple with, especially when it comes to establishing God's kingdom in their sphere of influence. Imagine a scenario where someone, let's call him John, feels a powerful urge to create a community of faith in his hometown. This isn't just a whim, it's a deep-seated calling, a divine authority placed in his heart by God. John's purpose isn't to build a monumental church or attract thousands of followers. Instead, he is called to foster a sense of unity, love, and faith among those around him. He carries an authority not of power or dominance, but of service and humility, to establish a spiritual home where people can connect with God and each other. This calling and authority are not exclusive to John. They are a divine gift, a responsibility given to each of us in unique ways. We each have a unique calling and authority that can be used to further God's kingdom. What does authority mean to you in the context of your faith? It's a thought-provoking question, isn't it? But let's take a step back and consider this. Authority, in the spiritual sense, isn't about domination or control. It's about recognizing the divine power that's been granted to us and using it to manifest God's kingdom here on earth. Think about a time when you felt a profound sense of purpose. A moment when you were driven by something bigger than yourself. That's the essence of spiritual authority. It's our commitment to God's plan, our surrender to His will, that empowers us to act with authority. Here's a personal anecdote. I recall a time when I was asked to lead a community project. I felt unqualified, small, but then I remembered that I wasn't doing this alone. I was acting under God's authority, and that gave me the courage to step forward and lead with conviction. Recognizing and stepping into our spiritual authority is a crucial part of our journey. As we have explored, walking worthy is a multifaceted journey. It's about rooting our joy in the profound knowledge of our God, while boldly facing the hindrances that come our way. It's about breaking free from being a prisoner of self and recognizing God's comforting presence in our pain. We've seen how walking worthy means choosing to surrender to God's wisdom about us, and how trauma can create shame that hinders our authenticity. We've also discovered the power of faith, leading us to intimacy with God, and the importance of knowing the truth for ourselves. It's about understanding that our emotions can mimic the voice of God and living according to His word of love. We've learned the significance of clear communication and humility in resolving conflicts, and the need to cultivate intimacy with the Lord to live beyond limitations. We've acknowledged that some are called to establish God's kingdom in their places of origin, recognizing their authority as a force on earth. May we each strive to walk worthy in our own unique spiritual journey. Your journey with us doesn't end here. If you have enjoyed our exploration of walking worthy, we invite you to engage with us further. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more insightful content like this. Your support fuels our mission to create and share. We would be thrilled to hear about your unique spiritual journey, the successes and the challenges. You can share your experiences with us by sending an email or leaving a comment below. Remember, we are a community here, learning and growing together. Each story shared adds to our collective wisdom. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep walking worthy, and take care.